In a perfect world, NFL teams are not in the business of watching first round picks diminish in their roles as rotational pieces, especially when it comes to the Eagles. And, well, unfortunately, we're in the position of watching two of those guys currently. But as for one, Brandon Graham has made it known today in his press conference that Derek Barnett has some unfinished business. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Bird brothers and sisters. Lindy Endzone is in for the touchdown, taking the lead for the Philadelphia Eagles, one video at a time. And as for new beginnings to, well, not me personally when it comes to the channel, this Friday, as my dog clanks across the basement floor there. This Friday is a new beginning when it comes to the expansion of my brand in the introduction of a podcast going on over at Philly Jim's channel called LinkedIn, which I'm hoping y'all will be connected if you catch the drift. But Philly Jim and I will be starting a new podcast called LinkedIn, all about the Philadelphia Eagles and rumors, latest news, developments of the like. That'll be starting on Friday at 8 p.m. Hope to see y'all there. Very exciting times with that involved. As for me being a part of the Sideline Sport Network with Jim and everybody else that's in connection to the Sideline Sport family. Thank you for the opportunity to Billy, Jim, and everybody involved, and very excited to get that going and providing some Eagles entertainment to the platform. But without further ado, let's get into a bit of a conversation here. So, as I brought up in the beginning of the introduction to this video, some of the Eagles players had their their off-season press conferences today as rookie minicamp starts to stir up and they're getting back into NovaCare and everybody's joining up together once again and seeing some fresh faces for the first, that will be seeing some fresh faces for the first time and just getting that connection back that they had from last year, especially when it comes to Brandon Graham. Very exciting to see him back. Watching over and listening to him talking at his press conference, he feels as if the Achilles injury has not happened, and take of that what you will. But for a guy that is, who just turned 34 years old, I believe, you have to imagine that you're in great spirits right now. Hearing that from BG, one of the best leaders in that defensive locker room, one of the best leaders as a whole for that football team. And we all know once he went down against the 49ers, what that the negative impact that it provided to the defensive line and how much they suffered, especially in terms of the run game, where BG seems to be the biggest commanding force when it comes to them stopping the run, and they suffered through it for a long period of time. And they had to make some adjustments just according to, just because of that injury. So, bringing up the conversation that he had with Derek Barnett, and yes, well, we got to cover a little bit of everything here, and not everything can be, a clear sky and sunshine all the time. As for topics for the Eagles here, and with this being one of the biggest unpopular opinions as to why this player is still on the football team, nonetheless, Derek Barnett was brought up at the press conference, and especially in terms of the new look defensively with the players added to that group. When you're talking about Hassan Reddick and Jordan Davis and Nakobe Dean and Kaiser White, a collection of players that are going to provide a lot to their roles in different capacities. And, well, you have to imagine that this would benefit a guy like Derek Barnett, especially with him being a diminished role, unfortunately, that you would hope that he would have some better contributions in a smaller package. Well, sorry, I had a terrible itch on the back of my neck. But getting back to it, BG had talked about that Derek Barnett, he hears us, and he explains that he has some unfinished business. And, well, pardon me for a second, as spring season's around and allergies are terrible, and I was hoping that they weren't going to affect this video as my eye starts to water. Oh, it is. I'll tell you what, man. Allergies for me are on and off, and when they hit, they hit. It's like guys when they get a man flu. It's sometimes they make such a big deal out of it, but there is a truth to it. There is a truth to it. But getting back to the conversation here, so BG was bringing up the fact that him and DB are, he calls him DB, but him and DB were talking in the means of, Derek telling him that, he's got some unfinished business. Mr. It's Always Him, as he's referred to. He's just not in a good position fan base wise. And, of course, all of it is what's the word I'm looking for? All of it is warranted. All of it is understandable for a guy in his career so far that he has accumulated more penalties than he has had sacks. Well, the point is of all this that, while it sounds good on the surface, really, if we think about it, the Eagles don't have much to lose here. Yeah, it was a 2-year deal that he was given, but it's really a 1 year to potentially let the second year kick in based on his performance. The Eagles could cut him and not lose and lose nothing if it were the case at the end of the season. But when you think about it, much like the fact that we talk about Jalen Hurts has no excuses offensively, well, Derek Barnett is going into a situation that favors him quite well with the additions that were provided on the defensive line and the pass rushers, especially when they get a guy like Nakobe Dean going, Jordan Davis as this athletic freak of nature that is going to, that we hope is going to attract as many as 3 bodies the way he did on that Georgia defensive line. You got another hellacious pass rusher in Hassan Reddick, who has been there and done that for so many years, a Philly native that's got a hunger behind him for playing for his hometown football team. And when you put it all together, and we thought that the veteran leadership was that there was a surplus of veteran leadership, before these players came in, and that could include the rookies to an extent, but you're really looking at the veterans in that regard. But you thought that there was a lot of it then, before guys like Kaiser White came in and Hassan Reddick and everybody else. Well, this is a more favored situation for Derek Barnett than it was when he was in a starting rotation before he falls down the depth chart. There's a lot of wisdom around him. So it's just about proving it to us, and not only to the fan base but to the football team, that your unfinished business is about producing the way a first-round pick to your stature when you were drafted as the man who broke Reggie White's sack record at Tennessee It's about you showing us that actual first round value that we thought we were getting over a consistent period of time. And, well, at the end of it all, we'll see. On the bright side of this, we have more depth this year than we did last year. Like I said, especially with Brandon Graham coming back, and you trade up to get a guy like Jordan Davis at number 13, and you're hoping that on the surface, Nakobe Dean is the steal of the draft that everybody is claiming that he is, and you got Hassan Reddick playing as a pass rusher in those 5-2 looks, and all the rotations that you can make now, much like we had during the Super Bowl run. and I know that this video isn't going to be received very well, being that it's unpopular opinion and it's an unpopular player that we are discussing, but like I said, you still got to have those conversations. So when you think about it, really, Derek Barnett and Jalen Reagor are in the same, they're in the same predicament right now. Do I think one is in a worse situation than the other? I would still imagine Barnett's. I would still imagine Barnett's situation's a little more favorable, being that he still has more production than Reagor has, and understandably so, considering Barnett has already been through his rookie deal and Reagor's just entering year 3. But the level of expectation remains the same because they were both first round picks, and at the end of the day, neither of them have performed to that standard. But now that something like this has come out in regards to Derek Barnett and how he feels, show us on the field. That's all we ask. The Eagles decided to give you another chance, which the majority of Eagles fans did not agree with. But when it comes to it, show us something. Show us that you can have more sacks than penalties. Show us that, we don't have to refer to you as Mr. It's always him. How many times we seen Nick Sirianni say this on the sidelines when the camera pans to him? And, well, Coach can deny it all he wants, but we knew who you were talking about. But yeah, that's gonna pretty much do it. I know that this is going to be a negative conversation for a lot of people, but you got to try. In any Nate, you have to try and you have to try and excavate any positive out of a negative. But I don't want to put him in a situation where, or I don't want to put it in a mindset where we say that, well, Barnett has no hope, because I think it's more of a means of Reagor has no hope. I would say, to me personally, I would say, that Reagor's in a worse situation than Barnett is right now. But yeah, no. Like I said before, I keep repeating myself. That's all. That's great, Derek. That's great. Good mindset, but we need to see it on the field, man. Like this is this is really his last shot with the football team. So, but yeah, that'll do it. Let me know down in the comments on your confidence level in Derek Barnett, and if you agree with the positivity that Brandon Graham is trying to share about his teammate that has been returned to the football team. Where do you think Barnett is? How do you think Barnett is going to play this year, considering all the defensive acquisitions across the line and the linebacking group? Because remember, the defensive line and the linebackers, that's a unified effort between the two. They they rely on each other. So, but yeah, that's going to do it for me, everybody. Appreciate you sticking around to the end of this video, and I will be seeing you next time. Fly Eagles fly, bleed green. This has been Lindy. Until then, have a good one, everybody.